Hey, what's going on? I am Matt O'Leary, going to be hanging out for the next hour and just talking some shop with you, whether it is New York Jets questions, whether it's Senior Bowl reaction, but we have a little bit of breaking news, unfortunately, right before hopping on stream that I got to lead with. Oh, this is sad. I don't like to share this news. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're about to find out. Someone we stand, someone we love very much, just got hired, and we should be happy. Mike McDaniel got a head coaching job, and he is someone who I've had my eye on for a while. I thought I loved him as an offensive coordinator option going back for over a year. He's pretty much Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man for a very, very long time. He's been with Shanahan longer than Mike LaFleur was, longer than Robert Saleh was. And he was really a big part of the running. He was the run game coordinator. Then he was promoted to offensive coordinator this past year. And while I'm so glad that he got an NFL job as a head coach, because he is just an electrifying personality and just a whole lot of fun, the Miami Dolphins hired him. Oh my God. Green Bean's hanging out in here. There he is. Green Bean. Love you, buddy. Mike McDaniel is your boy. Yeah, Green Bean. How long have I been talking about McDaniel, man? How long? For over a year, we've been talking about this guy. Like I said, I am thrilled that he got a job. I'm extremely happy for him, but it just sucks because he's in our division. Like, you can't root for the guy now. I can't now root for him, but I will say this. I would thoroughly expect the Miami Dolphins offense next year to look completely different. They did not run the ball great this past year. And that's which is odd because I think that you can play into Tua's strength that way. But I would expect an overload of that, and any Jalen Waddle prop that you could get for next year, an over receiving yards or anything like that, I'm going to be way, way up on that. It stinks. Whatever. We move on. Frustrating. We move on and let's get to the Senior Bowl stuff because that's the big story. That's the big takeaway for me. My favorite thing, and I shared the clip on my TikTok and on Instagram. So if you don't follow there, please do. Matt O'Leary NY, and it's Ron Middleton's pregame speech because he was head coach for the national team, and it was a ton of fun watching the game. I was on Jet Nation's channel, which Green Bean was doing the live stream. Jeremy was on there. I popped in for a little bit. Ryan popped in, and we had some guests pop in here and there, and it was fun. It was an interesting game. We had some prospects to watch. Trey McBride scored a touchdown. It's pretty incredible stuff. I am very much so here for the Trey McBride stock rising way, way, way up. So that's obviously a big storyline. I wanted to see the quarterback, Malik Willis. His stock is also rising. Supposedly Pittsburgh likes him a lot. Green Bean was telling me that Detroit is very high on him. I think I'd be surprised if he was the pick at 2, but we want as many non-edge rushers to go in front of the Jets or offensive linemen as humanly possible. Like, if Malik Willis ends up being the second pick, that is phenomenal for the Jets because that means Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, one of those guys is going to be there for the Jets at 4, which is an absolute home run. Jeremy, who was on the stream yesterday, chimes in. Let's help Matt O'Leary raise money for St. Jude's. 500 subs for my channel. By March 30 will be 5 of his boycott the beat shirts up for grabs and 100 donations to St. Jude's. Yeah, man, wonderful cause. And if you're not subbed up to Jeremy, you're absolutely doing it wrong. He's an absolute blast. So check it out for sure. Love it. Where was I? The Trey McBride. That's the big one that I wanted to talk about because going into the week, if you followed along with anything, and like honestly, shout out, like Ali was down there. Got a ton of information from him. Will Parkinson from Turn on the Jets was down there. Connor Rogers, Bleacher Report, and the what's the Badlands podcast was down there, and a ton of phenomenal information. And Trey McBride was, even before the Senior Bowl week, was very high on the New York Jets fans list for who they wanted their team to come away with. And for obvious reasons, to me, he's far and away the best tight end in this class. And that's coming from someone who loves Jeremy Ruckert, because well, he's good. I think he's tight end too, but the Long Island connection and the Jets fan connection, like I would love if Rucker was a Jet, but at the same time, if you're in a world where you can pick one or the other, it's got to be McBride. And I think he showed you why this week. Not only is he a good blocking tight end, which matters, like in this Jet system, it's going to matter, which is why I don't see Isaiah Likely as a big option there. I don't see Jalen Weidemeyer as a big option for the Jets. In free agency, I don't see Mike Gesicki as an option for the New York Jets. But what McBride can do with his athleticism and then his hands are unbelievable. He was a contested catch machine this week in practice, and just the touchdown wasn't contested, but I mean, that just to add that extra element, and that was a play that the Jets would run and that they want to run in their offense. But we saw, man, earlier in the year, the Jets tried to run two tight ends out there. You just had Ryan Griffin, Trayvon Wesco, Tyler Croft. Like, you can't run two tight end personnel with those guys. Come on. Like, if Tyler Croft is your tight end 3, okay, you're in fine shape, man. Maybe a low end tight end 2. But the fact that he was the best tight end on this roster, really scary, and especially when you're running a West Coast offense. Now, I wanted to see more Chris Herndon. I was very wrong about Chris Herndon. Okay, clearly very wrong. But Ryan Griffin can't play in this league anymore. Daniel Brown is Daniel Brown. Trevon Wesco, not great. So clearly, I and most people are in the Jet fandom want the Jets to go heavy tight end, whether it be in free agency or the draft, or for in my take, both one and one, please. I think that would be extremely, extremely wise. So, like I said, I absolutely can't. Oh, my work computer is ringing off. Hopefully, you guys don't hear that too much. But super excited to be in here and talking Senior Bowl. Let's dive into some of the questions. And let's do it, man. The Trey McBride tutty was a big one. Zachary Hunko chimes in. Agree. That was the highlight of the game for me. There was a lot to like. I mean, just hanging out with the gang over at Jets Nation was a blast, but that was just, you love to see it. And Ron Middleton, again, phenomenal pregame press conference, or pregame speech rather. But the fact that he spoke so highly of him and he was one of the ones dumping the Gatorade bucket, I don't know, man. I don't know. Raw Power, Matt O'Leary live. Heck yeah. Listen, guys, I'm trying to get this in the rotation during the off season on Sundays. Not going to do it during Super Bowl Sunday. 2 reasons. Number 1, Super Bowl Sunday. But number 2, which is really cool, my cousin is having a baby. So I'm going to a gender reveal earlier in the day. So shout out to my cousin Jason and his wife Paige. They're having another baby. So we're going to be celebrating with the fam a little bit on Sunday. So I'm going to take some much needed time off for that. Malik Willis has a huge arm and great legs. Why not draft him if you need a quarterback? I don't disagree that he is in the conversation for best quarterback in this class. There are some inconsistencies in his game, but like if you're just going ceiling wise, or based off his traits, I think his ceiling is likely probably higher than a Kenny Pickett or a Matt Corral. But I think some teams will fall in love with the safeness of Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral. I saw something today. I forget who said it. So an NFL reporter / scout was saying that teams believe Kenny Pickett is the most NFL ready. And I see that, like, kind of like last year with Mac Jones in a way, where he might come in and be like game manager, but how close really is that to his ceiling? So Malik Willis, he does have a big arm and he can run. I think accuracy issues might be a little bit of a problem. And honestly, I think he would fare well in a situation where he could sit maybe for a year and go off that, because he doesn't have he started at Liberty. And if you don't have to throw him in, like, his traits aren't as high as someone like Justin Fields and Zach Wilson last year. Their traits were probably higher than, I would say, Malik Willis, and they've had, more starting experience. I know not necessarily Zach Wilson with the competition. You'd say, well, BYU's a small school and Liberty's a small school. I agree with that. But if you don't have to start Malik Willis from day one, I would say probably better off not. But I don't know. I see him as a late first rounder. Early second is probably where I would guess, but I don't know. Based on everything we've heard, Steelers, I think they really fell in love with him. We got a super chat. Let's go find this super chat. Thank you to Mumtaz for shining in. If you could have one of Garrett Wilson, Drake London, or Traylon Burks, who would you take? I was high on London, but not sure about his separation skill. Phenomenal question, Mumtaz. And honestly, you can make a strong case for any one of these three guys, right? Drake London isn't a great separator. I mean, he can, but not necessarily like the other two. He is going to be the best red zone threat of the bunch. Go up and get it, make plays, attack the football at the high point, all things you love. Traylon Burks is a little bit of a jack of all trades. And he's someone who they've compared to like a Deebo Samuel role. I think he's like a little bit bigger. He's fast, probably not as fast as Garrett Wilson, and not as good of a route runner as Garrett Wilson, but just what Burks can do with the ball in his hands. He runs like a bigger running back and is very hard to bring down. He would be an exciting addition in this offense. I personally probably prefer Burks, but I mean, I would not be upset if they drafted Garrett Wilson at 10 or even London. Like, it seems like they've been connected to London this week. That's been the flavor of the week. And again, not necessarily my preference, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was a bad decision if they were to go the other two guys. I think you can make a strong case for either of those guys being the top in this class, especially after the Jameson Williams injury. I think you can make, like I said, you can make a case for any of these three. Tyler Croft is in the chat. What up, man? I'm the best tight end in Jets history. I don't know how much of I gotta find how much Doug Jolly have you watched in your career? I think I'd probably go Doug Jolly as best tight end in Jets history, but that's just me. Thank you for chiming in, Tyler. I love it. Daniel Murphy, any relation to the baseball player Daniel Murphy? McDaniel's going to the Dolphins. I know we had a little bit of a sad attack at the beginning. We don't like to see this. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have to. I wanted our guy to get hired. I wanted him to get a head coaching gig, and I'm so pleased that he did. It just sucks that it's in division, man. Like, of course it is. Like, come on, we can't catch any breaks here. I agree with this comment from Scott, by the way. What is he saying? He is saying, Kenny Pickett to the Commanders at 11. I agree with that. I think that is probably the case. Commanders, that's going to get hard. That's going to be hard for me to get used to. Washington football team kind of grew on me, not going to lie. But I think I'm in the minority here. I did like their uniforms. I know a lot of people didn't like the jerseys. I thought the black ones were really cool. And even the white, I know the numbers look a little weird, kind of like the Rams, but I like it. I think it was kind of cool. Zach Wilson chimes in. Chris Olave, not an option. Not at that point. I wouldn't put him in the top 3. I look at him as more of a later first round receiver. I just don't think he's as good as those other 3. He's not a bad option. I just don't think his ceiling's necessarily as high. He could be a good player in this league, but I'm not quite at that level. Jason Morrow was the worst tight end. I had high hopes for Jason Morrow. I loved him after his rookie year, and then he got hurt. And then I was like, all right, the resurgence. Jason Morrow's coming back. No such luck, unfortunately. Sean chimes in. I would like Ika Mekwano, at 4, Linderbaum at 10, trade McGovern for pick, save money, move up for a third first, maybe grab linebacker free agency, grab Reed at safety only because he's cheaper than Bates. Okay. A lot to unpack here. Let's get into it. Give me a second. I'm drinking a little wild. You can't see it over here. We're a little wild turkey tonight. So, all right, let's break this down. Trading McGovern to take Linderbaum. Okay. So what do we think you're getting for McGovern? I guess a second. If we're saying move up for a third first to grab a linebacker, I I don't think they're gonna do that. Now, I guess I understand where you're coming from. And like, look, early on, especially, I was banging the drum for Tyler Linderbaum. I was like, this is a home run. But I have to be honest with you, I was impressed with McGovern this year. I thought he played really well, and it was a good bounce back year. I think this system suits him. Um, I'm with you with Aquanu. I think that would be a home run. I don't think they're going to take him though. I really don't think they're going to take Linderbaum. I get where you're coming from. I just don't necessarily um, agree with that. And linebacker, they should at least address. I agree. Oh, Nathan, good question. If we don't get Schultz, who is the free agent tight end you would want? So this is probably going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think that there are a lot of tight ends in this class who are overrated. David Njoku jumps to mind. He hasn't proved anything to me in this league. He's been extremely inconsistent. Um, Injuries have played a factor in some point in his career. There was a trade request to get out of Cleveland. He wasn't happy. He was disgruntled. I he has a high ceiling. Like, I'm not going to argue and say that he doesn't. He's extremely athletic, but he has not lived up to his potential. And I don't necessarily want to sign up for a reclamation project. I don't think the Jets are in that position to do that. Evan Ingram's a drop machine. Don't want him. OJ Howard, extremely overrated. Don't want him. Honestly, like Gerald Everett, not a bad idea. Was it Hayden Hurst as a free agent, I believe, too? Not a bad idea. I like Zach Ertz, and I know he's older, but he had a really solid year, better production than I originally anticipated. He had over 700 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And I think what would be cool is if you were to draft, let's say you draft Trey McBride and you sign Zach Ertz. And then you have Ertz for, let's say, a year or two. He could take the young tight end, even if it's not McBride. Maybe it's Ruckert. Maybe it's Ferguson. Maybe it's Kolar. He could take that guy under his wing, kind of show him the ropes and groom him to be that big number one while you're able to run a nice kind of 1-2 punch there. So that's my answer. Again, probably not a popular opinion. I know, because he's a little bit on the older side, but they they definitely need some help at the tight end position. So it's going to be a popular discussion, but I'm going to say no. Jack says Giants go quarterback in the first. I don't think so. I think they either go with like a Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, someone like that, or they run it back with Daniel Jones and wait to next year's quarterback class, which is supposed to be better. Maybe Daboll turns him around. I don't buy it. I was not a big Jones guy coming out, and I think he's extremely inconsistent. I don't think they go quarterback in this draft class, though. Daniel Murphy says, no relation. I'm more consistent than him. Love it. And I'm sure you didn't have as many mental mistakes in the field as he did. Oh, good question again from Sean. Grab Preston Smith at edge from Green Bay. Cooper or Moore to address wide receiver. Take your pick at cornerback. Interesting. Preston Smith is probably going to get cut by the Green Bay Packers, and that would be a home run. Good call. I don't think people are talking enough about that because the Packers are going to be in a big cap crunch, and one of the two Smiths that they either, whether it be Preston or Zadarius Smith, one of those two guys are going to get cut. So interesting. Spencer, what's up, my man? Is Jermaine Johnson that far off from George Karlaftis in your opinion? Feel like that gap is not that far, but initially mocks they were farther apart. I agree. I think Jermaine Johnson is skyrocketing up the draft board, and he was someone who was maybe an early second round pick not that long ago, but he's not going to make it to the second round. I think you can make a case that he's in the top 15 of this draft. And George Karlaftis, in my eyes, I think Karlaftis is a top 10 pick. I've seen mocks where he's gone to like Cleveland a little bit later, but still kind of remains the same. I think he's probably Karlaftis is edge 3 and Johnson's edge 4 for me, but they're close in terms of like where I rank them right now. So I definitely think you can make a strong case for them being close. That's a really good call, Spencer. And check out his podcast too, by the way. I was on not too long ago. It was a ton of fun. Where are we at here? Oh, we got a super chat. Let's check that in. Laura, what is it? Lordana Marie? I keep hearing Hamilton rumors. I'm getting nervous. Kyle Hamilton? Listen, you came to the right place if you want to get shot down from the Kyle Hamilton rumors. Based on, I feel like a broken record because I feel like I say this every single week. This staff, I don't think is going to put that much stock into the defensive backs that high. And Green Bean, if you're still in here, I'm sorry. He's a big Kyle Hamilton fan, and I get it. He's an exciting player. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's bad. He's not bad. He's a really good player and probably going to be good in this league. I just go back to what I seem to always say. I just don't see it for the Jets. And Douglas doesn't really give me any indication that he would go that way. Robert Saleh and Ulbrich, based on what they said, they really seem to be believers in pass rush and getting after the quarterback as the most important thing of the defense. So it would really surprise me if they went that direction. This was a comment that I wanted to get to as well. Barrios 9 million thoughts. There is no way in hell that Braxton Berrios is getting $9 million. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. That is really good. A good move from his agent leaking that to Rich Cimini, because he wants to get that value up. And look, if he wants to get paid like a top slot, like I get it. That's fine. But he's a $5 or $6 million player. $9 million. That's crazy to me. That is absolutely insane. If he's your fourth wide receiver, great. But are you paying a wide receiver for $9 million a year? That's crazy town. I'm sorry. And Braxton's a good player, but that's bananas to me. I'm sorry. Good question, Nathan. What would you do if Karlaftis is there at 10, but Burks was there too? Who would you take and why? So I think I'm taking Burks because I very much so bought into the Jets leaks. Not necessarily the Jets leaks. I should rephrase that. More so the conversations that have been had that the Jets are going to really focus on building the offense for Zach Wilson and making sure that he's the guy. So I would say Treylon Burks. And that's not, again, I like George a lot. Now, it depends on if you attack wide receiver through trade, maybe then that's a different conversation. Then, yeah, absolutely. I'd take George Karlaftis. But it's really hard to do before free agency, as you guys know. But I think I'm leaning offense. What about you, Nathan? Where do you feel? Here we go. Don't know if you spoke on it already, but any thoughts on McShay's tweet on how KT is falling due to effort? I would be downright stunned if he makes it past the Jets and then again makes it past the Giants. I don't know. I feel like this stuff happens all the time around this time of year. Like people they overthink the draft sometimes. Myself included. I get myself into trouble doing stuff like that where I overlook some things or I put too much stock into things. And I think that's just the instance that we're looking at right now is we're a little bit tired with watching Kayvon Thibodeau when people are looking for reasons to move him down their draft board. I think he should be a top 3 pick. What else we got here? GVH again, we need veteran safety, someone whose eyes won't get fooled. I agree with this class, especially. You have to get someone who is able to just come in and play and be good right away. And like, I know you're the people who are big Kyle Hamilton guys are going to say, well, he can do that and he'll be cheap. And you're right. You're right. You're right. But that with this free agent class, there's a lot of guys that there's no excuse, right? There's no excuse. Find the one that you like best, whether it's Williams, whether it's Bates, whoever, I don't care. You got to sign somebody. Interesting question. Allen Robinson, a valid option in free agency. Let's think. That is good, by the way. My stock is down on Allen Robinson, and he is someone who thrived in years gone by in really bad quarterback situations, whether it was in Jacksonville or whether it was in Chicago. I think it's starting to get risky because his numbers were, and the underlying numbers too, not just like, oh, he was open and just wasn't getting the ball. I don't know. I'm worried about him. So I would lean towards no at this point, unfortunately. DJ Gig, what can we get for Mims? If you're lucky, maybe a tackling dummy. I don't think he has any value right now, which is a crying shame because the talent is there. We saw it at Baylor. Many people thought he was a first rounder, myself included. I made a video, or there was at least a clip of me somewhere talking about maybe the Jets should look into trading up if a receiver falls like Denzel Mims and get back into the first round to grab him. And he ended up being there in the second round. Like, we know the whole story. This year was just downright bad. I think you have two options. Either bring him back and you get whatever you get out of him, or number two, if he's not on the team, you're cutting him because you're not getting any draft picks for him back right now, which is just strange. Think McCown gets hired by Houston. Listen, if Josh McCown, who has never coached in this league, gets hired as a head coach, I mean, that it would be crazy. And I like Josh. Like, he could be totally, like, he should be a quarterback coach somewhere, and then he should move up to offensive coordinator, and then maybe he can be a head coach. Like, I just think he has to pay his dues. I don't think you could just say, hey, you play in the league. I don't know. He was on their practice squad last year. No, in 2020, was he not on that roster in some capacity on their practice squad or whatever? If he's a head coach, I mean, that is just a slap in the face to so many good candidates. Like, what is someone like, I don't know, Byron Leftwich? Eric Bieniemy can't get a job in this league, but Josh McCown's going to get hired? I mean, come on. You guys got to be at least a quarterback coach or something first. It's crazy to me. Green Bean. Oh, my God. You're a Yellowstone guy? I'm on season 2. I am addicted. I don't know if you're still in here, Green Bean. That was a few minutes ago, but I have recently just gotten into the show myself. I'm going to text him about that later. I love it. Is Sheldon Rankins worth retaining at $5.5 million? I would say yes. I think it's worthwhile to bring Sheldon Rankins back. He is, I think, a steady player. He's not phenomenal. He's not bad. You have a ton of cap space to begin with. I'm good with bringing him back. He gets after the quarterback, which is what this team wants to do. He's not going to be an every down player. He doesn't have to be. More than likely, you're going to have Carl Lawson, somebody new on edge on the other side, John Franklin Myers, and Quinnen Williams in the middle, and Sheldon Rankins could rotate in every once in a while. Bryce Huff can rotate in every once in a while, and hopefully some more depth beyond that. So I think he is worth retaining, and 5.5's not a ton of money for that. I'm really good with that. Let's scroll some of these down and see where we're at. Let's fleece Carolina again. I love it. Oh, okay. So that's in reply to this comment for Mims to Carolina. I'm a Matt Rule guy too. That's why. That's where it all stemmed from. I liked Matt Rule a lot. That's when I started to fall in love with Denzel too. He's a good player. This is a great Yellowstone is Son of Anarchy on horses. I also heard another great take. Someone said that it's if The Sopranos happened in Montana instead of New Jersey, which that made me chuckle. Like I said, I'm still relatively new to it. I'm just on season 2. I finished season 1 last night. So I love the show. I think it's awesome. And plus they play really good music. You guys know that I'm a big like Texas country fan, so I love it. Jay Gasman said on Twitter he'd be shocked if McCown isn't hired by Houston. And this is Brandon Ferris. Shout out Brandon who says this. That I'm not discrediting Jake. Jake is obviously he's on the air in Houston. He's locked in. He knows his stuff. It would be downright appalling if Houston made this decision. It would. And again, I'm not saying anyone who has their sources and we're saying like, listen, I think Houston's going to make that call. That is a ballsy decision on their part, especially on top of the things that have been coming out the last few weeks. Like, it just looks tone deaf. I'm sorry, it does. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Nathan chimes in. Would you take a linebacker at 10? Probably not. If there's a world where I can trade up and grab the Kobe Dean, like make a package of picks and get back into the first round and take him, then I would do that, but not straight up at 10. Crowder was a $9 million a year player. Why isn't Braxton? He seems just as good, if not better, and plays special teams. Well, let's compare. Crowder stats. I'll read them off to you right now. Jamison Crowder was a punt returner too, by the way, earlier in his career. But he has 1, 2, 3 seasons over 700 yards, 2 over 800. His first year with the Jets, he had over 800. In 2020, he had 699 and 6 touchdowns in 12 games. This year wasn't great. Braxton Berrios' best year, which was this year, was for 431 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2020, he was at 394 and 3 touchdowns. He's a very good returner and a fourth receiver. Crowder was your starting slot. And now Elijah Moore is going to be your starting slot, or at least a part of your starting rotation. I don't think Braxton's a top 3 receiver on a good team. If he is your fourth receiver, great. That means you have good depth, but you're probably paying that guy $5 or $6 million a year, not paying him 9 or 10 million up that high. That's crazy. With losing Salah, McDaniel, and GM Martin Mayhew, the 49ers have gotten 5 third-round picks in the last 2 years. Yeah, that's a good point. They have gotten draft capital back, and that's all a part of what the NFL is trying to do to incentivize teams to start hiring more minorities, because there's, very clearly it leans one way right now. But the 49ers have a good staff. That's part of it too. They have a great infrastructure there, and their guys are going to start to get poached. And it looks like they just got 2 good ones from there, in Salah and LaFleur. Zach Wilson, Mike McDaniel is going to turn Braxton into a god. If that happens, that's going to be the Jets Twitter is going to explode. If he went down to Miami with Mike McDaniel and he turned him into a god, oh, that would be tough. You would never, ever, ever hear the end of it. Never. Amazing. Those holes were so big, even Green Bean could have returned for us. Special teams good. Brant Boyer is a really damn good coach, man. The Jets have a pretty good coaching staff. I'm very high on LaFleur. I think he looked good as a rookie. Ron Middleton, I liked a lot, especially, the more we hear from him, he seems great. Brant Boyer survived how many coaching changes? It's unreal, dude. They have a good staff, and you're right. Myself, I could have been back there returning punts. Jets fans want to have their next Corbett again so bad they are overrating Berrios. A little bit. He is a little bit overrated. And that's what I said that before the year, and it really riled people up. And then again, during the year, people were bringing those tweets back up, like old takes exposing me, I guess. But I do think Jet fans overrate him a little bit. I think he's a good player. Again, he's a solid player, but is he a close to $10 million player? I would say probably not. So I'm with raw power here. Carmelo El Bori's way. McCreary looks like the best cornerback in this draft, passes the eye test and always in wide receiver's back pocket. Yeah, he's a really good player. Derek Stingley, I don't think he's going to be the first cornerback off the board anymore. I don't. I think you can really make a strong case that it's either McCreary or Sauce Gardner, which is crazy when you consider how many freaking mock drafts the NFL pundits had the Jets taking Derek Stingley at 4. And there's a possibility that he is not a top 10 pick, Stingley. Oliver, what's up, dude? Love your work, Matt. Would you consider signing Schultz and drafting a tight end? Would you focus on offense or defense this offseason? I say, Zach, give Zach the keys. Yep. Schultz and draft a tight end is the dream to me. I think that's the perfect one too. That's just it. That's it. That's the best tight end, and whoever you find, whether again it's Ruckert, whether it's McBride, whether it's so maybe someone like Ferguson a little bit later. I don't think it necessarily has to be you just focus on one or the other. I think my philosophy would be trying to address the defense in free agency and the mid to later rounds and putting premium draft picks into the offense to grow with Zach. Maybe add an offensive guard in free agency. But other than that, I think I guess I would say lean offense, but I'm not someone who's like just ignore defense. I don't think you could do that either. Brian, thanks for the time, Matt. Merry Pro Bowl miss. I have not watched a Pro Bowl, and I can't even tell you how long. The last Pro Bowl I remember, oh God, I'm going to date myself here. Jeff Garcia played, and Lifehouse performed at halftime. I think it was 2007 was the last Pro Bowl I watched. Listen, I don't put any stock into it. I just don't. Some people think it's fun. It's not for me. I grew out of it, I think. Who's your favorite power running back in this draft? Ooh, good question. I think you can go a couple ways. Haskins, I think, is intriguing. The Alabama running back Robinson's probably another good one. I would say probably Haskins first and then Robinson too. Jets gang, I don't necessarily disagree with that take. I think there's a real shot that he goes up first. This is another popular take. Muma is absolutely someone I have circled in this draft class. I think he's probably going, again, just a guess, but I'm going to say 3rd round would be my guess. And I think the Jets would be in on him. He looked really good this week at the Senior Bowl. He is someone who I think could come in and play like right away as I don't know. Where do you think he goes? Late 2nd, early 3rd round? Like Jets have what, pick 69? I think he's absolutely someone who could be in the conversation there. We'll see. What else we got in here? Yeah, SDA. I agree. Anyone else have Drake London growing on them? Yeah. He was probably number 4, my number wide receiver 4 or 5 not too long ago. But the more he's been connected to the Jets, the more I've watched him. And he's an exciting player. The plays that he can make and what he can do for a young quarterback in the red zone, I think can't be overstated. Now, this is a hot take. Ruckert, McBride. I love Ruckert, but I'm not ready to say that. I think McBride is the best one. Connor Hughes said that he heard rumors at the Senior Bowl that Schultz could be extended or franchised. What are your thoughts? I think the franchise tag makes a ton of sense for him. it would suck. Usually good players like that, or excellent players like that, don't hit the market. Um, if he does, the Jets should throw him the bag, but I think there's probably, like, realistically, there's probably a strong chance that he goes back. Which is kind of what Jets gang comes right back and says, what do we do if Schultz doesn't hit the market? Do we draft 2 tight ends or get one in free agency and one in the draft? I would say I would do what I talked about earlier. Sign Ertz and have him mentor whichever tight end you draft, McBride or Ruckert, or I really like Ferguson too. Like, I know he's not going to go as high as those other 2 guys, but I think he's a little underrated, and he's probably going to go what? 4th round? I like him a lot. What else we have in here? I watched PFF this morning. They had us taking London at 10. Yeah, that's a popular one. The Jets have had a very strong connection to him there. I don't know where that rumor started, but it's been circling around. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on. I don't hate it. Again, I like Burks more, but if that's who Joe Douglas wants for his offense, and if he thinks he's going to help Zach Wilson be better, then okay, let's rock and roll. Do we bolster the D-line tenfold and draft Perron Winfrey at 35, tight end at 38? I think the Jets could go with an edge in one of their first 4 picks in the draft. I think I'll say it like this. Defensive line will be the first position the Jets draft on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's a fair assessment. And at someone at 35, also probably a fair assessment. Does McBride get to 38? I don't know. If he doesn't, then I'm taking Ruckert there. I think McBride hype train won't let him see round 2. It's going to be close. It's definitely going to be close. Maybe pick 35 is where you might have to do it. I don't know how I feel about trading up into the first round for him. If it gets to that, then I'm probably just saying, well, we tried, and taking Ruckert in the second round. Okay, this I don't agree with. And I like Ferguson. I think he's really underrated, but I think Ruckert is very clearly the second best tight end in this class, in my eyes at least. Gitmo Bob. During the Senior Bowl, they had the top 50 players, and Dean was in the top 10. Then they showed a mock, and he was taken in the 20s. It doesn't necessarily go like a top. Those rankings don't necessarily fit in like with the mock, if that makes sense. And a lot of it is because team need and positional value. But he's going to go in the first round. Okay, I don't agree with this either, Sean. I don't want wide receiver in the first. Put them against the last 2-year wide receivers. You wouldn't draft any of them in the first. I don't necessarily agree with that. Jalen Reagor was a first round pick a couple of years ago. There were strong strong wide receiver drafts the last couple of years in 2021 and 2020. But I don't think that necessarily discredits this class. I think this is a good one. Jameson Williams, to me, I think would have easily been in the conversation with Jerry Jeudy and with CeeDee Lamb in the 2020 class. So I can't say that I agree with this. Justin Rivera. Matt, in my opinion, we trade down at 10 and pick up an extra second and third. Day 2, I believe, is where the real value is in this draft. Justin, that's a really smart take. And I think, that's where you're really build out your rosters, the mid rounds, right? I'm not opposed to that at all. I'm not moving down a ton though. Like maybe the furthest I'll go is the Steelers at 20. But if you move back to 14 with the Ravens or 15 with the Eagles, and then I think you have the Saints and the Steelers are 19 and 20. And that's probably the furthest that I would go. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Thoughts on Zion Johnson in the second round? Also, don't hate it. If that's the direction that they want to go, it's good with me. I think he's a good player. He can play guard. He's tried to play center a little bit, but I think you slot him in a right guard and you could forget about him. Now, you probably are doing this if Kayvon Thibodeau is there for you at 4, and then you go receiver at 10, and then in Zion Johnson at 35, then sure. I think that's absolutely a move. This is a great point from Spencer. Rucker gives off the vibes of Dawson Knox, similar college production and usage. Yeah, I think that in a bigger role, Rucker would thrive. I think he was an excellent, like, top level blocker at Ohio State, but was not utilized a ton in the passing game. Justin Fields, I think, utilized him a little bit more, but to me, it's because of what they had at the wide receiver position. They have a ton at the wide receiver. They're stacked at that position. So I think his numbers aren't quite there, but value wise, I think he's really good. What do you think about Mekhi Becton? What do you predict will happen about the weight issue? I think he will come back and be starting at either left tackle or right tackle, and I think he will play 15 plus games for the Jets this year and play at a very high, damn near Pro Bowl level. I am still very high on Mekhi Becton. I think some people are overreacting with him. Nick says thoughts on dropping back to 20 and 30 and taking Penning. Yeah, he's been someone that Douglas really seemed enamored with at the Senior Bowl. And I don't have him as high as probably it's Neal, Aquanu, Cross, and then maybe Penning is after that. I guess you could. I prefer, like, if one of Aquanu or Neal are there at 4, I think I'd rather just do that than trade back and take Penning. Matt, I'm not buying the Drake London rumors, but I can see Joe D moving back into the first round, 20 or 30 for a wide receiver like Burks or Dotson. Burks, I don't know if he's going to be there at 20. I think, because there's someone, the Jets potentially at 10 could take a receiver. Cleveland, I would say, would take a receiver, or they should at least. Ravens could use receiving help, but they've taken receiver a bunch early, but it hasn't necessarily worked out. And then there's a lot of teams in the 20s who could use receiver help. The Saints could use a receiver. The Packers could use a receiver. The Chiefs could use a receiver. Dotson, I don't think he's someone the Jets are going to go for. But Burks, I absolutely have highlighted. I just don't think so. Do you think? I didn't click on it. Nathan chimes in. Do you think Moore will get 1,000 yards this year? If he plays 17 games, I think he will lead the Jets in receiving yards, and I think he will crack 1,000. I think he should be, if he plays all 17 games, be around 1,100 yards. I don't think Penning can. I don't think he did in college. That doesn't necessarily mean that he can't. What we do know is both Aquanu and Neal can. So that's why I lean that way. Come on. Joe Buck sucks. Curse word. Did Mekhi ever play right tackle at college? Feel like he might not be as good on the right side as he was on the left. He did. He did play right tackle at college. I think he can do it. It's really dependent on what happens in camp. I think you have them battle it out, and whoever wins, and the other one moves to right tackle. It is what it is. I'm not, again, I'm really not all that concerned with Makai. I think he's going to come back and be fine. I think we saw a ton of talent his rookie year, and he got rolled up on by a 300-pound man and missed the year. It sucks. It happens, but I think people are making a little bit too much of this. Let's see. I am worried about this, that Penning might draw a ton of flags. I am worried about that. Which is why I wouldn't take him in the top 10. That's like a last ditch effort thing. The Jets like him for his physicality. You like him if he plays for your team, but he toes the line. He definitely toes the line. I think dream scenario for the Jets is that one of the defensive ends fall to them at 4, trade back from 10. We add pass catcher there after wide receiver or tight end. Then we use middle rounds to shore the D. I think you laid out a very nice blueprint for the Jets this offseason. And I think that's exactly something that we could see. This is a popular name, Wan'Dale Robinson. I need to do more research on Wan'Dale Robinson, but he is a very popular name. I don't think the Jets are going to take a receiver in the second. I think they do it earlier than that, but I'm going to start looking at my second, third round options, and he's going to be one of the first guys that I look at. Michael, thank you for chiming in. 7:00 usually on Sundays. Next week with the Super Bowl, not going live. But welcome in. We're going to try to make this a regular thing. So look out on Twitter or on here. And more often than not, it'll be 7:00. How will Zach do under pressure? Will he have to run or will he give it to Moore? I think he'll be okay under pressure. I think it's dependent on the situation. I don't see him as someone who is either I'm going to try to go find my favorite player and throw him the ball, or I'm going to tuck in and run every time. I think it's going to be dependent on the situation. Interesting take here from Jake. I think right tackle ultimately is the better position for him. Mekhi is a great run blocker, still working on pass pro. Teams usually want their left tackle to be the better pass protector to protect the quarterback's blind side. That's a really good point. Now, I thought Mekhi got better in pass pro as his rookie year went on, but there is no doubt that George Fant is the better pass protector right now. And Mekhi is clearly the better run blocker. So not a bad take. And again, like it doesn't have to be like a worst case scenario if they do move him over to right side. So they move to the right side. And that probably means that George Fant is playing really good at left tackle. It's a good problem to have. Oh, okay. Trading down both picks. Okay. Get Linderbaum and Dean/Lloyd between 12 and 25, and then go get Mafi, McBride, and wide receiver in the second round. One, yes. Two, I don't know. I think you got to make one pick in the top 10. Big Al, I do not agree. I'm good with drafting Neal, but I think this is a short-sighted take. Any sleepers that you love in days 2 and 3 that stand out? Well, we talked about Ferguson as a player that I really like in the 4th round as a tight end. Does Muma count as a sleeper? Brandon Smith, the linebacker from Penn State, I really like a lot. I like his athleticism. Verone McKinley from Oregon, the safety, I like him as like a 3rd or 4th rounder. The safety from Baylor, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. He's just in the Senior Bowl. Petrie, something like that. Damn it. The chat will remind me. I'm blanking on his name, but he looked pretty good. He's probably someone you can grab at the top of the third. Yeah, I those are a few that just, off the top of my head. I'll do a couple more, then I'm going to hop out of here and record Just Jets for tomorrow. Does Williams make it out of round one? Where does he go? I think he could go to like a team that could afford a gamble. So in the 20s, like could New England gamble on him and try to get that connection back with Mac Jones? Maybe. I think that a team like Buffalo or Kansas City or someone like that could absolutely, or Green Bay even could do it. Kev, I don't think that's too early for Jermaine Johnson. I don't think it's too early for him. I would prefer to go receiver, but again, it's dependent on what you do in free agency and leading up to the draft. Like if the Jets trade pick 35 and another second rounder next year for Calvin Ridley, then okay, then you have your wide receiver figured out and you could take your edge there. We got a couple more. We got time for a few more in here. Who's trading up to 4? Doubt anyone is calling. I think 10 is the spot. Someone's going to want to get in front of Washington, the Commanders. I think we just had a super chat chime in, so I'm going to look for this. Thank you, NYC Camper. I appreciate that. Nick, Linderbaum may fall to late first. Would you trade our second and third to trade up for McBride, Williamson, or Linderbaum? Seemingly unrealistic. I don't think I would trade up for any one of those guys. If I am trading up into the first round for a third pick, it's for Nakobe Dean, I think. We were just talking about you earlier, Jake. Matt O'Leary, baby, one of the all-time greats. Absolutely appreciate it, my friend. We were talking earlier about the Texans and the thought of them hiring Josh McCown, which is just crazy to me. And I know you feel the same way. Appreciate you hopping in, Jake. Let's see. Is it too late to call in for a voicemail for Just Jets? If you do it in the next 5 minutes, how about that? You could be on, because I'm going to refresh my beverage here and then start recording. So if you do it in the next couple minutes, then I'll be able to get you on. Broncos and Panthers can trade up with us to get their quarterback. I think they're going to look for the veteran options. Aaron Rodgers and Broncos, that connection seems a little bit too real. Panthers, maybe they take Matt Corral. I don't think they're trading up, though. I don't think you really have to trade up in this class. I'm going to do a couple more. Yeah, it might be too much trading down from both picks. Looking forward for tomorrow night. It means he clarified and said Tuesday. So Talking Jets panel, if you don't, by the way, subscribe to Green Bean and Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. I don't know what you're doing. Jake Asman as well, if he's still in here, sub up to him. We do the Talking Jets panel every Tuesday from 8 to 10. Check it out. It's an absolute blast. I have time for 2 more. This one doesn't count, but Banana Land, if McCown is hired, hard agree. Feeling like Ferguson going to have a longer career than expected. Okay, we're going to do this one. This is a longer one, so I'll do this one and then one more. I'd trade back from 4 and hopefully get a 2023 first round pick, 2022 first and second, then grab Linderbaum, Jermaine Johnson, McBride, and then Watson. I'd then trade my 2023 first for DK Metcalf. Interesting. Okay, I could see that. I think that's wise. That's definitely a way to go about it. And this will be the one that we close out with. Thank you so much. Would you draft or pass on Thibodeau if he is available at 4? I'll tell you what I do. I take my little pad, take my pen, and I'd say Kayvon Thibodeau. I'd rip it off. Is it going to show? Not really. It's not going to focus on it. And then I would run this to Roger Goodell and say, give me the best edge rusher in the country, please. I don't care about this falling nonsense. I don't buy it. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for tuning into live stream. I appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, for Super Bowl Sunday, I'm not going to be on. So I hope you enjoy the game. It's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait to watch. It should be a great game. And the following Sunday, I'll be back live streaming. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe here if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.